Hello, it's Dawn Michelle, and welcome back to my channel. So a little bit ago, I was able to catch up with the beautiful Tara from Cozy Core, who makes the most warm and fuzzy content over on her channel. We had the most amazing time having a little chat about tarot, gamifying life, writing, and just other life things in general. So let's go ahead and jump into another episode of Cards and Company with my lovely friend Tara.
Funny thing about what I was just saying when I was like, oh, there's like so much stuff, like too much stuff that like I love and I want to try and I'm curious about. But then when we find ways to kind of like fit it in with something we're already doing.
That's always my goal.
Exactly. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
always like, I just want
Yeah.
to fit. I think you said it in a recent video. You're like, I just want to fit tarot into any aspect of my life I possibly can.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's same with like I'm doing the same with gaming, like everything, like I'm trying to gamify everything
yes.
because it
Yeah.
makes it more fun and life is hard. I think it's so cool when you can blend all of those things together because then you get more opportunity to do it, I think.
One of the um like I was gonna say consequences of side effects. That still sounds
Mhm.
bad. You know what I mean?
Without the negative connotation, yeah.
Yeah. Of the gamify your life because I've like really stuck with it. Like it's been really great for me because I've been my own on my own journey, like we all have before this.
Mhm.
I mean, of like constantly trying to like, you know, be
Mhm.
better or, get to a state that I'm like more comfortable with, more confident and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And this has really like kind of surprised me in how it's like practical but still feels a little magical and like ritualistic.
Yeah.
And then I also see like the impact of it on my life because I am like being more productive. But then I'm
Mhm.
appreciating it has such a good ripple effect because like
Yeah.
you set this goal and then you do it. And then you
Yeah.
see it makes you feel good. And then, you want to do more and you want to keep the ball rolling. And I know that's kind of the basis for any goal setting, but for some reason, in this form and being able to like pull like the tarot into it and all that kind of stuff, it's
Mhm.
just like I saying like it changed my life sounds so dramatic, but like honestly,
Yeah.
like it kind of has.
I had a whole chat with my members about it. Like I am so motivated by earning pixels like in games.
Okay.
The amount of work that I will put into getting completing a quest or getting a weapon or creating a piece of armor, whatever it is. Like we were talking about, like Lisa and I were talking about, like back in the days of World of Warcraft, when you would basically like farm for weeks these dungeons, running them over and over and over and over again with your guild or your group members or whatever, trying to get this like one sword,
Yeah.
right? That like it's like a 10% drop rate, only one person can get it, but yet you will run that dungeon
Yeah.
50 times a month to try and get that imaginary pixel sword.
Yeah.
I've spent decades doing this. So I'm like, okay, when I sat down to figure out the gamify stuff, I'm like, I'm completely motivated by the idea of things. I don't actually need a tangible reward. I don't need a
Yeah.
physical reward. I need to know that I did the thing
Yeah.
and I got whatever it was that I set out to achieve. I love including the cards in it because that actually is a tangible reward. And man, the first time, the very first week I did Gamify, the first week of January, I didn't earn one of my cards and I was mad about it.
Yeah.
And you can bet that every week since then, I have made sure that that one thing that I didn't get done the first week that cost me my card in that reading, I absolutely have made sure I've done every week since so that I get all my cards in my full reading
Yeah.
because that's me or earning the whole thing. And like that's totally enough motivation for me. I know a lot of people have done like they have like they'll buy a deck or they'll go to a nice dinner or whatever, and I mean I think that's totally great too, but I'm completely motivated by the intangible, so like
Yeah.
I might as well just let that work to my advantage. I do get my reading at the end, so I do get a tangible thing, but
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I haven't set like prizes for myself or anything like that, but I think if that works for just people just like have to do
yeah.
what works for themselves. But yeah, for me, like the satisfaction of just like being able to look at my notebook and be like, oh wow, like I did the things that I like
Hmm.
when you first put the video out, I totally misinterpreted the I thought you had said that you were just going to do like a reading at the end of every month with like these selection of decks.
Mhm.
I don't know why, like that's where my brain went. I
Uh-huh.
forgot about the whole like earning a card thing. And then I was at first I was like, well, maybe this is just what the way that's right for me, so I'm going to do it this way. But
Mhm.
then when I was watching your video where you were talking about like earning the card and feeling like kind of like disappointed if you didn't, and I was like,
Mhm.
that might be like a really good motivator. So I'm gonna try it for next month and do it
Mhm.
that way and see how it goes.
Well,
'Cause
definitely let me know how it works. It totally works for me because it feels like if I didn't earn a card that week and I'm missing it out of the reading, then the reading feels incomplete to me.
yeah,
Because even though I have 4 other cards on the table, I know there's supposed to be 5.
yeah,
And, when I'm missing the one, I'm like, "This is not cool, man." I go through my gamify usually every Saturday or Sunday, usually it's on Sundays, and I, like, go through and, make sure that I'm not missing anything, because if I am, I will do it on Sunday,
yeah.
so that because Monday is when I sit down and I actually record all my gamify from the previous week and I do my reading. So
Okay.
every Monday I do that. That's like the first thing I do every Monday morning now is I sit down with my planner and my gamify weeks and I go through my week and I'm like, okay, how many of these things did I actually do?
Yeah,
And I earn all my points and then I do my reading around it. And so I always do a check-in though on Sunday because like if I'm missing anything, I'm
yeah,
gonna do it
yeah.
because I want that card.
It lights a little fire.
It
Like,
does.
I'm gonna vacuum my whole house or like whatever it is.
Right.
I know
Yeah.
stuff like very like basic stuff like that, that it's like
Mhm.
I hate it when I miss doing, when you forget to do
Mhm.
something so basic for the week and then
Mhm.
you're like, but it kind of haunts you a little bit. Like that's,
Yep.
yeah, how it gets me. But I also really like how, like, all the aspects of our lives, like, I
Mhm.
mean, even like I always think about, like I forget, did I do it prosperity? Something like the financial like section of
Uh-huh.
your life, right? I'm like,
Right.
oh wow, like I never thought I would be like pulling cards in connection to something like that, or even like stewardship, like my house and like,
Mhm.
just maintaining my home. I never thought I would like pull cards around that. Like, but
Yeah.
it makes it, I don't know, it's almost like romanticizing your life, but it's not
Mhm.
romantic. It feels more, well, it's gamifying. So,
It's
but
gamifying, yeah.
it's
But
a
I
different
mean,
genre.
gamifying is not that unrelated to romanticizing because a lot of like if you think about games, a lot of gaming is this very fantasy world, right? You're becoming the hero, you're becoming the whatever. I'm going to go slay the dragon. I'm trying to think of other, like, I'm going to go save the princess, whatever. It's all very romantic based, a lot of that. So I don't think they are like mutually exclusive.
Yeah,
It's definitely a kind of romanticizing. I think that the slight difference between romanticizing and gamifying, I think, has more of a play aspect where I feel like there's a little bit more freedom to do things that are maybe outside of the normal realm. Like I pull tarot cards, but I also do like dice casting with mine too and things like that. So I'm adding in those like elements of play and things that I enjoy on top of it, which are specifically meant to be playful.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. You know how, like, at the beginning, I think you did this too, where you do like a mission statement? Like, you can have
Mhm.
like a character, or you can have like yourself or whatever,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then you do like your mission statement. So I have that at the very front of my thing. So every time I go in to like put my little check marks or whatever, I see it. And
Mhm.
that, when I wrote that, it was like kind of like very flowery and like, this is my idyllic, like, reason
Mhm.
behind all of this kind of stuff. And it's nice to kind of be reminded of that because the tasks themselves are like very mundane.
Mhm.
But the reason behind it or like what's powering it is very like, I guess, heart centered or whatever, right? Like
Mhm.
you want all these things in place so that you can, be healthy, be confident, have a loving home,
Mhm.
like whatever
Yeah.
your reason is.
So have you found I think you kinda mentioned this, that, it's a doing the gamify is bringing tarot into portions and areas of your life that you didn't normally incorporate tarot into.
Yeah, and it's kind well, because I think like all of us, like we like the act of doing tarot readings
Yeah, for
and stuff
sure.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So it it well, one, because like I want an excuse to do a reading. Like I don't need an
Mhm.
excuse to do a reading, but if I have like a
It gives you a
specific
reason to, right? Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But then because like that's kind of something that I always like have in the back of my mind of something that I love doing and something that I want to try to make time for, then it also like and I guess like it depends. This could be a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a good thing for me right now. But it's just
Mhm.
like then it keeps those other things at the forefront of your mind as well a little bit
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
But it I really like very strongly believe because I feel like I've experienced this that like you can have like a significant shift in like the vibe of your life without
Mhm.
anything actually changing if you just change
Mhm.
your mindset. So I feel like this has
Absolutely.
yeah, I feel like this has changed like my mindset around some of those like topics or like sections of my life
Mhm.
just by the nature of the practice of gamifying it kind of.
Gamify it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So how are you tracking your gamify? Are you using like a planner? I know you did a video. I will link that below too, just so that
Yeah,
everybody can go check that out. But
I have like a my weekly planner thing. So
mhm.
I don't track everything in this, but like my weekly tasks, I always have like a little list going that I just check
Mhm.
off of things. There is like a list of things that I want to make sure that I do every single week.
Right.
So I do that here, but then I have like a bigger one that I have like every single task. I think I can show you this. But yeah, like that's like my little mission statement
Mhm.
with my little that's me, obviously.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I've just been like tracking the points
Mhm.
for like each category, vitality pursuits, whatever, for each month. And then, like you were saying, when you kind of are reflecting on that and being like, oh, okay, I have, 16 points in vitality and 20 points in stewardship, but like my pursuits, I have zero.
Mhm. Mhm.
And spirit, like my
Mhm.
faith, my spiritual life, like
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean I'm not doing any of those things in my life, but I'm not doing the things that I've set
Mhm.
out to do that I
It's
want to.
really telling, isn't it? I've
Yes.
been really surprised, and there's been a few times where I've been like, I didn't think I did this particular thing very often, but then when I started tracking it, I realized, oh, I actually do. Like one of my goals was like quality time with people, like in various shapes and forms, but like not necessarily like in a producing sort of way, but like just quality time with people, right? And then I realized that all of the things that I do, like, there's a huge majority of things that I do that actually I am getting quality time with people. Like,
Yeah.
I will totally mark this as quality time between us because we're sitting here and we're having a conversation and we're hanging out and like these types of things. When I game with Lisa, that's quality time with Lisa. It's time her and I have set aside to spend time together. That's just how we choose to spend our time, kissing boys and killing things is what we do. But
Very high
this
quality.
little it's very high quality.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because I really thought that like I'm just using that one as an example. But when I thought sat down to put together this whole gamify at the I guess it was the end of last year, that was one of the things that I was like, oh, I don't spend enough quality time with people. Like that's I felt like that was a place where I really struggled and I was like, I don't like I need to really focus on that. And then when I actually started tracking things with Gamify, I'm like, well, wait a minute, actually, almost every day I have some sort of quality time with somebody I care about in my life.
Yeah.
And it's a very rare day that I don't get that little dot in my
Yeah.
planner. And it's usually because on those days it's really interesting. I can look back and go, okay, that's a day that I usually was working on a big project, which means I intentionally focused in on that.
Yeah.
Or like my husband was out of town. So we didn't have any quality time, which meant I completely focused on work for that day. And I was like, had basically put everybody on hold. I'm like, okay, today's my day to work and I'm just going to fully, ensconce myself in that. But it's really interesting because it's really brought to the forefront. Not only things where like I thought I did well at, and I'm not,
Yeah,
but
same.
also places where I thought I was, really needed to work on that. And so it's interesting because then I was like, well, that was like an intention I was going to have, right? I was going to put energy into quality time. Now I do that naturally.
Yeah.
So that's not where I should be putting my intention. I should be putting my intention into the places where I'm struggling to actually hit those goals.
Yeah. There was a couple things that I actually just like removed from like my little
Mhm.
tasks list because I was like, I just, like you said, like do this naturally. And I didn't,
Mhm.
it was so weird. Like I obviously thought it was like enough of a thing that I needed to prioritize that I wrote it down in
Mhm.
this list. And
Mhm.
then I'm going through my days and I'm like marking it down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is pointless. Like I'm going to do this anyways. Like, why am I
Mhm.
tracking this? Like I don't need to. And it really surprised me. Like when I went into it, I was like, oh, my vitality, like my physical health is going to be like that's like my thing. Like I got to be healthier.
Mhm.
And that's, one of the areas that so I'm like, is it like, I don't know if confirmation bias is like the right word, but like,
Mhm.
is it like, am I doing better at it because, but I don't, I was going to say because like I'm focusing on it, but I don't think so
Mhm.
because it doesn't feel like a stretch. It feels like
Mhm.
normal for me to do these things. So maybe it's just being like aware and acknowledging
Mhm.
that maybe you're not like as bad, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like ignoring these parts of your life as much as you thought you were.
Mhm. I think it makes us more aware and mindful about how we spend our time. When we start really looking at, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to do gamify was in the first place was because I wanted to see where I was spending my time, how I was spending my time, and am I really spending my time on the things that I want to be? Because like life is short and there's only so much time in the day. Like we're talking about, there's so many things I want to do.
Yeah,
And I have to, but like I also, I don't want other things to slide. Like I don't want my relationship with my husband to slide because I'm, trying to tick off all these other boxes. So I think for me, it's the whole process has made me really much more aware of how I spend my time and and it's a choice most of the time how I'm spending my time. I mean, yes, I do have some things that I'm obligated to, but
yeah,
in a general sense, it's how I choose to spend my time.
yeah,
But it makes me more aware and mindful about what I'm doing in any given moment. And it's really interesting. We had a whole conversation in my membership. I dragged Ali and Krista and Lisa into it with me because we were all, well, we threw Ali under the bus, but we were all doing gamify.
yeah,
And Ali found that it does like the planning aspect of it, the tracking aspect of it doesn't work for her. That doesn't mean that she's not doing it. She says she's not doing it, but she is. She's doing it in her own way. Just it doesn't look like the way I do it, which is I think what's really interesting to talk about this gamifying thing because the way I'm doing is totally different than the way that you're doing it. It's totally different than the way that Lisa's doing it. She went above and beyond as she usually does, and it's
yeah,
amazing. And and the way that Krista's doing it, and it's so cool to see all these people taking this one concept and just really tweaking it to fit their own life, which is
yeah,
absolutely what I wanted because nobody else lives my life. So you shouldn't be doing my gamify. You should be doing your own, which is
yeah,
why I created a whole like little like here's the rules I made. Now take it and do your own thing with that.
yeah. Here's a starting point. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I used to, I don't know if it's like for me, I feel like it's just something that's come with age where I used to, I've like always kind of suffered from this like perfectionism kind of thing. So
Mhm.
if someone like you or like whoever, someone who I see as like the expert on this specific thing, or
Mhm.
someone who's just teaching it to me, right? I'm
Mhm.
like, well, they obviously know more than me. I need to do it exactly this way, or
Mhm.
I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
And, I can't believe it's taken me decades to like actually,
Mhm.
like as you get older, don't you find
Yeah.
you still realize things and you're like, wow, like
Oh,
I know life
absolutely.
could have been
Yeah.
so much simpler if I would figured this out like
Yeah.
20 years
If
ago.
I'd have known this 20 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the simplest thing. And a lot of it's
Mhm.
stuff that like people have told me a million times. And
Mhm.
something just makes that light bulb go off finally. But
Mhm.
I finally realized that you can take a concept that someone has and, exactly like you said, you can tweak it so
Mhm.
that you can still achieve what brought you there in the first place. Like,
Mhm.
and whether it's like what, accomplishing any goal within any aspect of your
Mhm.
life, and then just making it work for you. And for me,
Yeah.
I found like I always thought I needed to have like a very rigid um like plan or like system, because I
Mhm.
always thought I was like a very like, flighty person and I needed that stuff. But
Mhm.
I'm like, I kind of need to lean into my nature a little bit of like
Mhm.
softening and just letting myself flow a little bit, because that is I think that's my nature, is to be more kind of like
A little more fluid.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. My
So
nature is completely rebellious apparently, which you people have told me my whole life, but like Lisa, you want to get me to do something, tell me I can't do it or not to do it, or tell me how to do it, and then I will go do it a different way. I realized that when I started researching the gamify stuff because I'm like, there's so many different ways out there to do it. And there's some really cool ways out there that like and people have created like they create like markets and they've got their own currency in their gamify. Like there's some people who have taken it to the extreme and I'm like, that is so cool and I love that, but I know me and that would never work for me. Um, for one, I spend too much time real life gaming. Like I don't have time to game my planner to that extent. I
yeah,
think it would be really cool, but I just don't have time for it.
yeah,
But also, like, that's such a structured system that I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna make it something totally different. I don't know. I couldn't even think of what it would be off the top of my head, but that's like and me being okay with that, learning that about myself, that's taken me, decades to figure that out.
yeah,
Like people have always told me, but I'm like, oh yeah. So I'd be like, no, 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 I'm great. Like you give me a set of, rules to follow or whatever. Like, I mean, I've worked in corporate America. Like I know how to follow the rules.
yeah.
I don't like it is
I
the
don't
thing.
want
There's
to,
that's
but
the big difference.
yeah,
That's the big difference. Like,
yeah,
I'm capable of it, I just don't want to at this point in my life because at this point in my life, I'm, like, over 40 and I'm like, "Yeah, life's short. This is
yeah.
not how I wanna spend my time."
No, I feel you,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Well, we see that with your decks too, right? Like someone's like, "Here's a deck, Dawn," and you're like, "Well, it's gonna lose its borders and it's gonna get
I know.
forward."
But, like, here's the thing, when I first started doing it, it was so interesting that, like, the whole modding thing.
Yeah.
When I first started doing it and, like, sharing it publicly, first of all, I was not the first person to do it. I think I saw it on someone else's channel. I think it's Veronica Jude was the first person I saw. It was way back machine. I don't think she's around much anymore. She definitely doesn't make content.
Okay.
Um, but the first time I ever saw a like chopping off borders, I'm pretty sure it was her. And she's done some really interesting creative stuff. I don't know if she even has a channel anymore because like we're talking like this was like 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but when I started doing it, because I do everything to the extreme, and it really threw people off at first, and I was like, "I don't get it, y'all. Like, why would you not wanna personalize your deck? It's yours.
Yeah.
Why would you not want it to reflect you and your life and your" so, yeah, color on it, cut it, whatever. Like, I did the whole Antique Anatomy mod where I, like, paper collaged over the top of that deck.
Yeah.
And now it's mine, and, like, I have another version of it, like, I have the indie version, I have the mass market version, and then I have my modded version,
Yeah.
and the modded version feels totally different, like, it is like, it's mine, but it's also, like it's kind of like a collab between me and the creator. She does know. I did, like, actually talk to her before I did the mod to let her know, "Hey, I'm gonna do this thing to your deck, and I am gonna put a video out on it unless that
Yeah.
makes you uncomfortable, and then I won't share it publicly. I'm
Yeah.
still gonna do it privately
Yeah.
because I want to."
Yeah.
But no, she was all in. She was like, "This is amazing." No, I absolutely wanna see it, but, like, it really is interesting to me, I guess, as a creative person, why you wouldn't want to personalize all these aspects of your practice. It's like watching people do tarot readings. Like, don't do it just like me. Like, take what I'm sharing. That's
Yeah.
great. But then like put your own spin on it. Make it yours. Like it'll be so much more meaningful that way.
Yeah. And there's been times where I've, I don't know, I feel weird saying created things, but like
Mhm,
I've, put things out into the world and then someone will like do exactly that. They'll do the
mhm,
and then sometimes I change the way that I do it because of them. Like
mhm.
they took my
Yeah.
thing and then they made it their own and then I'm like, you did it better. Or like I
Yep.
I wanted to try it or whatever. Like I love that. Like just things evolving and growing because people put their own person. It's like I
Mhm.
don't know why the whole deck modding thing is so shocking. Like people do it with their clothes, we do it with our
Mhm.
homes, like we do with everything. You create, you make
Yeah.
things into something that is gonna work for you and comfort you or whatever you want
Mhm.
to get out of it. But
Yeah, it's like or like tearing up books. I mean, I've torn up books for years.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not tearing up like special edition, like, should belong in a library kind of book. It's like back in the deck modding thing. I used to tell like it's not like I'm defacing the Mona Lisa here, people.
yeah,
It's a $20 piece of cardboard.
yeah,
Like I mean, like if we're being realistic about it.
yeah,
So there's a level there, right?
yeah.
But the whole creative aspect of it and creating, I think it's so cool over the last like few years of really seeing the big increase in people using tarot creatively, not just in modding, but just the way that people are using tarot creatively is really cool to me. How long have you been reading tarot? I don't know that I actually know that.
I think since like 2016. So like 9 years, which feels
Mhm.
like a lot for me.
Mhm.
And I still feel like very beginnery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever stop learning.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, and it's such a rich world now too. And then once you
Mhm.
start, like when I first started, I was like, oh, I like, am I trying to be like a fortune teller or whatever?
Mhm.
Um, which I thought was like a cool idea.
Mhm.
But I was like, I'm not. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
I don't really want to be because it kind of scares me. Like, I'm the kind of person like that would get anxiety if I was like pulling cards, like, oh, your week's gonna be like this, and I'm like, oh shit, well, I'm locking myself in my home now, and like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I started realizing like it was like the Biddy Tarot podcast that where she started talking about using it for like self-reflection and like all this stuff. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh wow, like why didn't I even think about that? And then
Mhm.
she even talked about using it for like business, like making
Mhm.
business decisions and stuff like that. And um, I think people like make so many assumptions about stuff like that. And they're like, oh, you're going to decide what you do with your business because of a tarot card. It's like, no, but well, maybe, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Maybe it will
Yeah.
work out. But like, you could also like just, I always think of like every card I pull as like a suggestion or like an
Mhm.
offering. Like, here's something to think about. Like, here's a little
Mhm.
seed that you might want to plant in your brain or something like that. And
Mhm.
take it from there. Like, it's just a way of, um, offering you something, when you can't like think, like you can't, you're stuck, like when
Right.
you're trying to write a book or something like that and you're
Mhm.
like, what the hell happens next?
Yeah.
You could pull a card and it can, be the 10 of swords and it's like, oh, someone's got to die, or like,
Yep.
or you could be like, oh, I hate the thought of that, and that could
Mhm.
start you down a whole other path that could be helpful.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So was that the Biddy, podcast, was that your, like, introduction into tarot? Like, how did you find tarot in the first place? I'm always curious how people come across it.
Well, I was really struggling, like with my mental health. I was going to therapy, I was going to doctor, I was doing
Mhm.
all this stuff, and it was really a weird thing because I've had my different experiences with that type of thing throughout my life, but at that point,
Mhm.
there really wasn't anything triggering it. So I started like searching for like other alternatives to like therapy. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I'm not saying it is an alternative to therapy, but I was like,
Mhm.
what else can I do?
Mhm. It's a supplement. It could be a supplement.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
I don't remember. I must have just come across an article or something like that that mentioned tarot for like self-reflection or something. So then
Mhm.
I think the first interaction I had with it was like the Labyrinthos app.
Mhm.
And I started doing the card pulls on the app
Mhm.
and using that. And it must have been right around the same time or maybe just after the Biddy Tarot podcast like came into my life. And I binged
Mhm.
every single episode and loved it.
Mhm.
And so it's so funny, like how much tarot has played like a pretty like significant role in, I mean, this, it's probably not funny, it's probably the same for everybody, but like to
Mhm.
me, like it's kind of striking that like some very like some of the most important parts of my life, it has like impacted pretty
Impacted.
significant,
Yeah.
I would say. But yeah.
That's cool. So how does your tarot practice, like, When I first very started, I didn't have a practice like I do now. I was learning tarot. I was pulling cards here and there as I could, but how would you say your practice? We'll use that word because it's very encompassing. But how you worked with tarot when you first started versus now? Have you seen a significant shift in how you actually work with the cards?
Yes, big time. Oh, I used to be like like actually OCD about like,
By the book?
yeah, like
Yeah.
and like smoke cleansing the cards. Like I have some
Mhm.
cards that actually have like not burn marks, but like smoke marks on them from like, smoke cleansing so much like a
Yeah.
psycho. And so again, that was like, it's so funny. It wasn't like that long ago, but like I was
Mhm.
still in that mindset of like, I have to do this perfectly.
Right.
Like I have to do this the right way. You know what I
Follow
mean?
the rules. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
And which I mean, I think a lot of people when they're in the beginner stage feel that way. And
Yeah.
maybe I do personally think it's good to like learn like a starting point or a framework of
Mhm.
things. You
Mhm.
don't have to do it, you don't have to stick with it, but like,
Mhm.
yeah, it looked like me trying to be a fortune teller.
Mhm.
Nothing. um, and then being very ritualistic,
Mhm.
but like in a very rigid way.
Mhm.
And like even if I got a deck, like I got the what's that Danielle Noel, the first like oracle she came out with, light.
Oh, yeah, light something.
Anyways, you know how in like decks sometimes they'll have like a suggested like ritual to do
Mhm.
before reading. So I would literally like get up every morning, and this was kind of nice, but like I'm glad it's evolved from this because it's not like uh,
Sustainable.
no. I would do the whole thing. It was this whole thing, and it was like, put your arms up and like bring them down, and like you have a
Mhm.
shield around you now, and all this kind of stuff. And I would do that. And I
Mhm.
guess like I needed that at that time in
Mhm.
my life. But I'm also quite happy, like you said, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's just not, maybe I feel like I don't need it. And maybe it was kind of like having training wheels, at
Mhm.
the time.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
now kind of feel like um, more confident in my ability to just kind of
Yeah.
use it in whatever way I want to or whatever I need to in that moment.
Yeah. I think that framework is really important. It's like one of the main reasons why, like, I every time I get a new deck, I still read the guidebook.
Yeah.
I don't use the guidebook 90% of the time. But I want to know what the intention was behind it. I want to know where it came from. And then I will likely take it and do my own thing with it. But I still want to know what that original framework was.
Yeah. Same.
And so I think that learning tarot is very much the same way, just in working with tarot. Like if you don't follow somebody's plan when you're first starting, you won't have a clue what to do with any of it because
Yeah.
it's very overwhelming.
Yes.
Tarot as a system is very overwhelming. It's a very tricky thing it can be a very tricky thing to learn. We're now starting to see resources and things come out that really, I think, do a really good job of kind of breaking it down, taking it out of the whole esoteric, like, I'm trying to think of a not crappy way to say it, but that whole like, you know, gatekeepy thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
like taking it out of that and making it more like relatable to the average everyday person and all of that. And I think that's amazing. That's definitely something that wasn't around a long time ago. It in the way it was starting to become a thing back when I first
Yeah.
started reading tarot 20 some odd years ago, but um it's definitely mainstream now. And I think that's really cool because it gives us so many different ways to experience tarot. And like, I love that a tarot tube for that because you can go to anybody's channel and everybody's doing it different, and that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I was just thinking that as you were saying that, I was like, man, like, when you first get into something and you want to buy all the things, you want to buy all the books,
Mhm,
whatever, like, I do that too.
mhm.
But if someone is watching this who, I mean, I think everyone who's watching this is probably into tarot already. But
Probably so,
if
but
they weren't,
never know.
I would say, you don't have to buy any resources. I mean, there's wonderful resources out there for
Mhm,
sure that I've gotten so much from and I have them
mhm.
you know, cherished on my bookshelf or whatever.
Yes.
But
Mhm,
you could just go on TarotTube and
mhm.
like at least get like an amazing start. Like
Mhm.
I can't imagine actually maybe you can speak to this because like when you started,
Mhm.
TerraTube wasn't around. Like you were
Mm.
saying, like you didn't even know there was like a whole bunch of different decks you could buy like on Amazon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I wonder like how different my practice would look if TerraTube didn't exist. Like
Yeah.
because it what like when I started was would that have been right around the time that you started your no, you probably started maybe, like, more 2019 2018,
I
2019?
think I think 2018, 2019.
I feel like I found
When I
you,
s
like, fairly early in my tarot practice,
Mhm.
or like Simon from the Hermit's Cave, like, some
Mhm.
people, that have been around for a really long time,
Mhm.
and, Kelly from the Truth and Story and stuff like
Mhm.
that, like, so yeah, like, I guess I don't maybe I wouldn't even still be doing it, I don't know, like, that kinda breaks my
Mhm.
heart, you know what I mean? But, like, Tarot
Yeah.
Tube really gave me, the support, like, and the
Mhm.
inspiration that I needed.
I think that's totally valid because I think back to like when I started my, practice, so to speak, when I started working with tarot. I mean, I didn't come at it from the way most people do because I was taught to read by somebody
Yeah,
using this kind of like family lineage, which is kind of a blend of the three major like RWS, Thoth, and Marseille kind of all blended into one. But then I was also taught like the way they deconstructed it was down to numbers and elements
yeah,
because then I could read with any deck. But so when I first started coming into like, okay, I know I've got these cards. I've been taught to read this way, and then when I wanted to like learn more about it, there wasn't a ton of resources. There were a few books, and I got the books, and they were primarily RWS based. And I was like, what the hell is this? What do you mean the 3 of swords means heartbreak? That makes no
yeah,
sense to me.
I hate
Still with that one. I will die on that 3 of swords hill. But it's really interesting because I think that if I and I had a big lull, so I did the big, like you do, like I bought all the books I could find. I did the researching. I made a binder. I wish I still had it. It's because it's been so long and we've moved and kids and whatnot. But my original tarot journal was this ginormous 2-inch 3-ring binder that I filled with notes I could find about, from all the resources about the different cards, because I was trying to wrap my brain around there's this system in tarot created by these people that everybody's using and I'm not. So I was
Oh,
trying to wrap my brain around how do I take that and incorporate that into what I was taught to do, which is still my go-to. That's still the basis of my
yeah,
practice. The way that I read tarot is still that way because it makes sense to me.
yeah,
Um, but I when I first started learning, like I gathered all the resources. I made this huge binder full of like not only was it just interpretations from all these different resources, this person says this about this card. And I like buy card all 78 cards.
so you had a
And then
commonplace,
it was a whole like Bible of tarot that I collected
oh,
from all these resources. And it was stuff from like back in the day, like Rachel Pollack's books and Mary Kay Greer's books, and like the foundational modern tarot
yeah,
books, right? And it was chocked full of it. It was ugly as hell. Like it was just on notebook paper, right? It was ugly. I didn't do anything decorative with it, but I had so much information in there. And then I started like adding in, okay, well, here's how I read it. And then how do I reconcile those things? And so much of my first few years of reading tarot was actually more study of tarot than actually using and reading tarot. So I
yeah,
would do readings, but I would do readings like you just for random weird stuff or mostly just when shit went wrong.
yeah,
Stuff was going wrong in my life. Like, oh, I guess I get ready to get my cards out, get to do a
yeah,
tarot reading, and figure out what's going on. Like, that was the only time I actually read with my cards.
yeah,
I studied the hell out of tarot for a really long time. And then I realized I was just doing I was only using the cards when I had an issue,
yeah,
or I would playing with them and I would like, while my kids were at like baseball practice, right? I'd take my deck and I'd sit in the car and wait for them and, whatever, shuffle, pull cards for the hell of it, just because it was there and I had it. But I didn't like, there was no intention behind it. There was no meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And when I first started like looking into like other resources, I was like, there's got to be something more. There's got
Yeah.
to be something more that I can do with these cards. And then I went on this hunt of like, well, how do other people work with tarot? Because I didn't know anybody in my personal life besides my one friend who I learned from, and like she didn't do any of that stuff because she like read her family away, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the way they read cards, and they had whole feels about Wade and Crowley and all them. So
Yeah.
I found that out later, but they had big feels about that. So
Mm.
they absolutely like bucked anything to do with that and all of that. But outside of that, I didn't know anybody else or hadn't been exposed to anybody else. So I was just like went looking on the internet because like that's what you do, right? You try to find your people on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's got to be something else. Like people have got to be doing something with these cards. Like I couldn't wrap my brain around like how do I actually use them in a productive way? And then what I really wanted to do was use them more creatively.
Yeah.
And that's really what I was looking for. And I like nothing against tarot tube in the beginning, but I didn't find much of that. I really
Yeah.
didn't. I found mostly walkthroughs or live chats with just people hanging out that 9 times out of 10 weren't even talking about tarot. And that's cool too, but that was not what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't looking to join a community. It sounds funny to say it now, but back then I wasn't looking to join a community. I was looking just to see, how do other people work with tarot? How do they do readings? Like, what do your readings look like? What does your tarot journal look like? I'm nosy. I want to know. I want to
Yeah.
see it. And like, YouTube's perfect for that. And I wasn't really finding it. So I was like, well, fine, I'll just share mine and I guess we'll figure it out along the way. And that's kind of where it started. But I feel like if I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole, I don't know that I would still be reading tarot because I wasn't getting much out of it beforehand.
Yeah. And then by you sharing like your journal and the way, then you get everybody to start offering theirs, and then you get to see that. So you created what you wanted to see, and then other
Yeah.
people created what you wanted to see because you were already creating it, which is
And
amazing.
I inadvertently created a community, which is cool. I mean, I absolutely love it, but it's really interesting because that was not my intention. Like I wasn't really like necessarily wanting to, like it was so cool to find people that were talking about tarot, but that wasn't like I wasn't here to make tarot friends.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how people did their stuff and I wanted to learn and I wanted to experience and also coming from it this was, like I was talking about when I didn't realize that like show me how to do it, then I'm gonna do it my own way anyway and forget it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I was at. Because I was like, okay, well, I'm seeing how they're doing it, but like, and that's cool, but like, I'm gonna do it this way.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm gonna cut up my decks, or I'm gonna rip up a book, or I'm gonna do, this crazy like reading without positions,
Yeah.
reading with dice, all
Yeah.
the things. So
The
it's
vignettes are my favorite. I love the vignette readings that you do.
oh yeah, those ones are
Yeah.
so much fun.
Oh,
They're so much fun.
yeah.
It's such an interesting experience to look back where you start with tarot
Yeah.
and where you end up, because I feel like it's through that experience that I found me
Yeah.
in the cards and in the way that I do things, and that's just it's super cool. Do you feel like that's a similar kind of talks like a similar experience for you too?
Yeah, for sure. Because it did a few things. It was something that I was like insecure about being
Mhm.
into. And so it challenged me to embrace something that I
Mhm.
thought people were going to like, make fun of me for, which like,
Oh,
again,
absolutely.
as you get older, you're like, I don't make
I
fun
don't
of me.
care.
I don't
Yeah.
care. Yeah. But, even, back then I
Mhm.
cared, a little bit.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was insecure about it. It
Mhm.
put me on YouTube, which I was
Mhm.
really scared of.
Mhm.
Because then again, you're sharing this part of you on another level,
Mhm.
What if someone from work sees it? What if my
Mhm.
mom sees it? What if
Yeah.
maybe whatever? Because we all, make assumptions about people and stuff, and some of them are true and some of them aren't, and whatever.
Mhm.
But people are gonna. That's just what we do. It's our nature. We're
Mhm. Oh,
gonna do it,
absolutely, yeah.
and
Yeah.
but you always, obviously want people to. You hope people will see you as you are and not as they
Mhm.
assume you are.
Mhm.
Um, it's brought in journaling into my life. I don't know if I mean, I had a diary when I was a kid, but like,
Right, yeah.
I never really journaled. I think it's honestly like changed the way that I think in the
Mhm.
sense, like I was kind of saying before, like considering something as a piece of information just as an offering and not
Mhm.
as a definitive answer.
So do you use it's talking about reading. Let's talk about writing, because writing's a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we'll start with like, do you use tarot when you write? We'll
Yes.
start with the obvious. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, figure.
Yeah.
So, like, what kind do you wanna share a little bit? Like, if you're comfortable sharing a little bit about how like, what kind of stuff you write and
Yeah, I've written, like everything I've ever written has been like had a romance element to it. I've never
Mhm,
published anything. I've written like a lot of scenes.
mhm.
And one
Scenes are the
thing,
best. I love
yeah,
writing scenes.
yeah. I've thought about like, should I just like put these online? But they're graphic. Like
Then absolutely yes.
that's what people want.
There's a whole website and community built around that, you know?
Yes, this is true.
It's
Yes, yes,
yeah,
there
yeah.
is. It's very lucrative. Yes.
Mhm,
Um, so yeah, but yeah, a lot of ways. One of the first like videos I put on my channel was like using tarot for writing, and I did like a
mhm,
two-part series, but it's even evolved like since then. So when I was like the scene like short stories that I did, I would pick like three cards, and like this is the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Right,
mhm,
and this is not me like purposely selecting cards. This is like random pulls. Like, how
mhm,
can you make this into a story?
mhm.
Some of them are great, some of them are horrible.
Yeah.
It's a good exercise in getting it to be creative, right? How can I
Mhm,
creatively get from this point to this point to this point?
mhm,
Like from this beginning, this middle, and this end. And then you start thinking, like, who are these characters? What are their
mhm,
lives? What are their personalities? Why do they look
mhm,
the way they do? Why do they have that expression on their face? Why do they, whatever,
mhm.
And I don't know what I think the first deck that I did that with was the Zeke's Arcana, which was
Mm,
fun because it's
that's a
like
good one, yeah.
millions and stuff. So it gives
Mhm,
you a lot of wiggle room to like,
mhm.
suspend belief and stuff like
Very
that.
creative deck, yeah.
Yeah. And then the last video I did was I was talking about the archetypes of the courts
Mhm,
because it actually started as something like because I always struggle with the courts, which I hear
mhm.
from a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's take the Kim Cran's archetypes decks, and I'm going to pick the archetypes that I think go best with each court card.
Mhm,
And I had already kind of been doing that on some level for character development, but it was more basically like, is this character a king of swords or a king of wands or whatever, right?
mhm,
But I was like, if I start building my understanding of the courts on a deeper level, then I can use that in my writing to make
mhm,
really rich characters. And
mhm,
especially with that archetypes deck, because it's like she has the archetypes, but then she has
mhm.
places and
Right.
tools and like some other
Mhm,
suit that I don't ever know what it
mhm.
is, like gods.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so and then I just like I don't know if it was in the recording, but you and I were talking about like the deck of many things, and like
Mhm,
it's just like going deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole. And as a reader too, like I think I really love character driven. I have to be able to connect with the character
yeah,
on
me
some
too,
level.
me
It's
too,
like,
yeah.
even if it's like I'm connecting with them because I hate them or whatever.
Mhm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so I think like in writing, having like a tool like that, and again, you can use that to like challenge yourself creatively. Like
Mhm,
if you have this character who's like a mermaid, but then you select like a desert landscape for them to like live in or something like that. Like,
mhm,
can you figure that out? Like maybe not,
mhm,
but
mhm.
it kind of offers you opportunities to stretch your imagination.
Hmm. Yeah, that's super cool.
I like
Yeah, I've done a bit of the pulling cards around plotting for sure. It's a
that.
great method when you get stuck because it kind of might give you something to think about.
Yeah.
Do you have any like do you have decks like specific to characters or stories?
So the Cat Black Touchstone Tarot, I was
Hmm.
using for a really long time for character development because they're all portraits,
That's
right?
portraits. That's a great one. Yeah, yeah.
The William Blake Tarot,
Hmm.
the Dolly Tarot, and
Hmm.
the Shakespeare Tarot. I think it's just because these are creatives
Hmm.
that I kind of
Makes
like
sense.
the idea of using them for that type of thing.
Hmm.
Those are more kind of like, I guess, idea or plot kind of driven
Hmm.
prompts.
Hmm.
And then what else do I have here? Obviously, the Sacred Creators, because
Hmm.
why not? That one I feel more, I use it less for like practical storytelling or character development and more kind of like
Hmm.
vibes
Hmm.
of the story.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then I have this one, which I haven't seen many people. I don't know. It's the people that made the Enchanted Tarot, Zerner,
Hmm.
Faber.
Zerna Farber. Yeah.
Yeah, Farber. Sorry,
Yeah.
they have this one too, and it's called the Creative Something
Is it
Deck.
the creativity oracle?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Oh yeah, they have like all these. There's
Mhm.
art on one side, words on the other,
Mhm.
and I like this one, and it has like little messages and stuff like that. So that one's good. But this one, I think, is the most um, like I'm pretty sure it's like made for it, but it's a game. It's like a huge
Mhm.
little stack of decks. I think it's called a fairy tale or story something,
Mhm.
but it has character cards, aspect cards, thing cards, like event cards, like all this
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
stuff. So you can, sort it into its categories and then, oh, I want my character to have a weapon. Like, what
Mhm.
is their weapon going to be? And then you pick
Mhm.
something and it might be something really dumb. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, I got to figure this out now.
Mhm.
Um,
That's fun.
but yeah,
A little bit of gamifying it.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Lenormand, I
Mhm.
really like for writing as well.
Mhm. Lenormand's great for writing, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Do you have any that you?
Um, I have I have decks that I relate to certain characters. I mean, definitely for gaming, I have.
Oh, you have like you use like
We
the
have
full deck for
we
like
have
that's their
like
character, their deck.
it's their character deck, yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, and that in a sense is adjacent to writing for me, whether it's
Yeah.
gaming or D&D or whatever. It's kind of it kind of exists in the same space in my brain.
Yeah.
Um, but I have for my fiction stories, I generally have decks that represent the story, not so much the character. And it's interesting when I think about that I will like I have specific character decks for gaming and like D&D or BG3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to like my stuff that I write, I just have like a deck that kind of like encompasses the whole like vibe of the story, not so much the characters, I
Hmm.
guess.
I want to try that.
It's just like I find that I think for me maybe it's because when I'm writing, I am all the characters,
Yes.
right? When I'm playing, I'm just well, okay, it's a little bit of a crossover with BG3 because you are actually playing with other characters, but
Yeah.
say like D&D, I'm just my character. I'm just playing that one character. I'm not like I'm participating in a story, but I'm not playing all of the parts of the story. And
Right.
so I think that's why I go with character specific decks for things like gaming versus when I'm creating the world, when I'm creating the story, I will pick a whole deck. And like the entire deck represents the story and the characters and everything in it. I think occasionally I've done a few where I had like I would try to pull in. Um, I wrote myself into a hole at one point, as we do, right?
Yeah.
Wrote yourself in a corner, and like I was trying to use tarot to like kind of help me brainstorm some ideas around that. So I pulled out the deck that I was using with this story. And then I was like, okay, but that's great. But I really do want to kind of hone in on this character and this character, like the hero and the heroine, right? Trying to figure their stuff out. So I did try to find decks that related to them and to use that, but it just did not work as well as like that character driven deck correlation works with gaming. And I think it really is. It comes down to the difference between playing a single character versus creating all the characters.
Yeah.
And in a sense, being all the characters, right? Like as a writer, like I am the heroine and the hero and the antagonist and the protagonist and like and every little NPC. That's not the term in writing, but every little secondary character, like you're all of them.
Yeah. You're the wind, you're the bird in the tree, you're the
Right,
whatever.
yeah. Just absolutely everything,
Yeah.
which is amazing, but also daunting at the same time.
That makes me kind of I wonder if that would, like, help me at all, because I am in a bit of a hole right now, and,
Mhm.
I don't have a deck that is like that book, like, that world,
Yeah,
I
try
guess.
yeah, maybe try it. Try to find a deck that really feels like it's that world, it sits in that space, and then see if that helps. Because it's I feel like it gets you a little bit more into the overall energy of the story versus because what for me when I get locked into a place with a story, it's generally because I've become so hyper focused on one particular aspect, or I've followed this one plot line to like this like whole, right?
Yeah,
And I struggle with getting out of that and seeing the bigger picture of the story.
yeah,
And so I find using just kind of like, I don't want to say generic deck, but just a single deck to
yeah,
encompass the whole story kind of shifts my brain into thinking more big picture when it comes to my work versus this scene. Because I'm very much at I don't write linear most of the time and I write in scenes.
right.
So it's very easy to get locked into detail when you're just focusing on that single scene and you're
Yeah,
not really thinking about, okay, but I also have this whole thing going on in the overarching story.
yeah,
And I'm real bad about that.
and you have to tie them together somehow in
Yeah.
a way that doesn't feel
Mhm.
like you're just jumping from one to the other for the sake of it, and it's like,
Mhm.
no, we need an organic transition from this, you know,
Yeah.
steamy situation to this, like, battle scene or something like
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
and
It tarot's great for that to do that kind of like, here's where I am. I've done that before to taken like I will specifically go through and pick out a card to represent here's where I am and pick out a card here's where I want to be and then shuffle and pull cards at random for the in between. How do I get from here to there? So it
okay,
gives me like and I don't necessarily, like you said, you don't necessarily always follow it, but it makes me think about different things. It makes me think of things in a
okay,
different way.
yeah,
So if I'm like, I'm over here in the lovers, but I need to get to the tower, right?
yeah,
And what needs to happen for me to get from there to from here to there? And then, you get like the, I don't know, three of swords in between or something, the eight of cups, whatever it is. Like you get all those cards in between with like little stepping stones. That's what I was trying to think of. Stepping
yeah,
stones along the way. And I don't always stick to it, but it gives me something different to think about. So I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's interesting. Could I do that? Maybe I don't like that. And sometimes I'll pull out a card. I'm like, no, I don't like that. I'll pull a different card.
yeah,
Okay, see, let's see if this fits. Like, let's see if this makes more sense to me.
yeah. I treat readings like that too, in a sense, is like, it kind of, this was like a technique that I learned I took like a coaching course like years and years ago, and it was like
Hmm.
the like 1, 2, 3 yes or 1, 2, 3 no. Have
Hmm.
you ever heard of that?
Hmm.
Where yeah,
Yeah.
someone says like, oh, if you're thinking about like a big life decision, like moving across the country, or
Hmm.
something, and like someone says, okay, like on the count of three, say yes or no, you're going to do this. You don't have to do
Hmm.
it, but just to see how it feels. And I
Hmm.
feel like tarot kind of like offers that,
Hmm.
like, because sometimes, like, well, oftentimes I'll go into reading hoping to pull certain
Hmm.
cards around
Right.
whatever subject, and very rarely they actually come up.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like examining,
Hmm.
reflecting on, like, oh, how do I feel about that? And I
Hmm.
guess it's the same with writing, right? And it's like, how do I feel about
Hmm.
my characters encountering this, or my
Hmm.
story going in this direction? I hate that idea. Okay, good.
Mhm.
I know what at least now I know what I don't want, and then
Right, yeah.
go from there. But I wanted to ask you, because I feel like my impression is that you've kind of always been like a creative person. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, probably. I mean, like, I've always written and drawn and things like that.
Yeah. Do you feel like tarot has changed your creativity?
Hmm. I Oh, that's a really good question. Has it changed my creativity? I would say it has, in the sense of I am exposed to so many different types of artwork now. And to some extent the interpretations, just looking at, if you're reading a guidebook and you're looking at that card through that creator, author, whatever it is, through their lens, they're seeing it in a different way than you're seeing it. And so that opens you up, I think, to just more opportunities and more ways to engage with things. But I think overall, in terms of my creativity, I would say it's the exposure to different types of art, to different types of um, reflecting on and interpreting art, because it's kind of what we do with tarot. Especially if you're an intuitive reader, you're interpreting the art. Otherwise, why are you using a deck?
Yeah.
You could just be using,
Whatever.
a numbered card. That's the I mean, I will die on that hill too. The art matters.
Yes.
If it didn't matter, it wouldn't be there. It would just say 3 of swords, 5
Yeah.
of cups. The art matters.
Yeah.
And so I think tarot has been really good for that. It's good for getting me, I think, when I get stuck and when I get locked into, like, creatively, a lot of times I'll pull cards around that to just kind of like help dislodge things, to help me look at things from a different perspective, maybe think about something that I haven't seen before. A lot of times what it does for me is it highlights fears that I haven't acknowledged, and I see it reflected in the card. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that scares the shit out of me. That's why I'm not doing it.
Mhm.
And that then I have to decide at that point, is that something that I want to push past, or is that fear? Like, not all fear is meant to be conquered. Some fear is there for a reason, because
Yes.
it is a protective thing. So then
Yes.
I go through the process of that. But I think that has been really helpful too, in when I've stumbled creatively. Tarot, I think, really, really helps with that. If for nothing else, it gets me out of whatever's going on inside my head, because now I'm interacting with the card, the art, the meaning, the interpretation of the creator, whatever. And I think it's really good at shifting gears for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was even thinking as you were saying that, like, even the physical act for a lot of
Mhm,
people, like, you always talk about shuffling, and,
mhm.
like, I'm not I'm, like, very bad at shuffling too, so it's kind of like I have to be very, like, intentional with my shuffling.
Present, yeah,
Everything's
which
gonna
is great. It's
yeah.
great.
But yeah,
Yeah.
even that, I was thinking, I'm like, it just I think with the way that our lives are in this modern age, like, at least obviously I can only speak for myself, but like I find that it's very easy to get in a state of like being caught up in like the whirlwind of like,
Mhm,
even if it's like just like, sitting on your phone or whatever,
mhm,
you're I'm not as present as I would
mhm.
like to be. And
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people speak the same way. And
Mhm,
that is something that asks you to be present in the physical
mhm,
act of doing it, in the
mhm,
psychological act of like analyzing artwork
mhm,
or recalling your knowledge of something or whatever it is.
mhm,
And yeah, I think that's so beautiful. Like, it was funny when we were talking about the gamify your life stuff. I was like, one of the things that it always like kind of slapped me in the face with is like phone stuff. Like,
yeah.
one of the things I wanted to do was like do like a no phone day. How many no phone
Mm,
days can I do? Well, not one
mhm.
yet, apparently.
Yeah,
Or like a no social media day or whatever.
right.
And it's all of this stuff, like whether it's like, making time for writing or anything creative or anything like that. It's like, okay, well, we all have the same amount of hours in a day, and we
Mhm,
have to like be intentional with how we use them. So if you're looking at this book of like all this stuff that you want to accomplish or all these things that you want to do,
mhm,
and like the only way that I can do that is to make time for them.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like, what do you want to prioritize?
yeah, exactly. But yeah, writing is it's sometimes I feel like the cards can be like your partner. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
your little dance partner in writing. And I don't know. I love it. There's it's taking something that you're passionate about, and then you're taking someone else's creation from what they're
Hmm.
passionate about, and it's just this like marriage of I don't know.
Hmm.
I love like I think that's why I love the tarot community so much. Is like I just love passionate people,
Hmm.
and like we like say things like, "Oh, we're nerding out over this stuff or whatever," and like
Hmm.
call it whatever you want, but that's like an intense passion for something
Hmm.
and love for something, and I love when people pull in like we were saying at the beginning, like different aspects of their life. Like you pull
Hmm.
gaming, and like Lisa is like the self care queen. You know what I mean? Like Danny has like her heritage and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Like it's just like people bring in like shows they love, like all these different things,
Hmm.
and it's just this. Yeah, I think it's so cool.
Yeah, but it's a great community. I think that it really highlights in all of the different ways that we share and we all go about doing things. And even if we're all using the same deck, like that's a complaint often in the online in the tarot community. Like you're all just talking about the same decks. It's because we all have a shared passion about that deck right now.
Yeah,
But we're all using it differently. We all see it differently and all of that. And I love that. It's like we are all every time we make videos, every time we have conversations, we are all co-creating together. That's such a woo word to use, but we are co-creating together. Like we're co-creating this environment, we're co-creating these ideas and the ways that we do things and work with things. And so much of my tarot history pre social media, for all its good and bad, and like it's like I'm not saying it's the best thing ever, but prior to that, so much of my tarot existed in a vacuum. So you're in this echo chamber. And I mean, sometimes we echo chamber each other. It happens, but like for the most part, we've got like a very diverse group of people on tarot tube sharing from very different backgrounds and the way that they use things, and it just makes, I think, a richer practice for everybody on the whole.
yeah,
Like whether you're making videos or just watching videos. I mean, I spent the first whole year, I think like my channel like actually goes back to like 2018 or whatever, this channel. But like prior to that, I just had like my personal, like I was just watching, YouTube. I was watching TerraTube on it then, and then I was like, oh, but I want to like actually participate in the conversation now. So, but all of that I think has such an impact on the way that we, use tarot and work with tarot, and the way that we do a lot of different things. Like sometimes people talk about stuff in a video and they're talking about, they may be talking about tarot or they may be talking about something totally not related to tarot. And I'll be like, oh, that would be really cool with tarot, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit like about your channel, what you do there? Of course, links below, but what you do there, and do you have like plans or thoughts or places you want to go with it?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I started my channel as a tarot channel,
Hmm.
obviously inspired by people like yourself, and um, just like saw what you all were doing on here and wanted to be part of it, wanted it as a
Hmm.
creative outlet. So I have like a lot of kind of first impressions videos of meeting
Hmm.
decks and pairing them and all that stuff that we love seeing. Some collection videos, tags, of course. But I think like the aspects of it that I feel like come like more organically from me are maybe like incorporating like the and this isn't unique to me, but it just feels
Hmm.
like
It works for you. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, is like
Hmm.
incorporating like the trying to incorporate creativity into it and things like that. I
Hmm.
really loved doing like the peek back videos where I could talk about like having a reflection on like the previous month or stuff like that. I need to start
Hmm.
doing those again,
Hmm.
because then I can talk about books. I love reading, or
Mhm.
I
Those are some of my favorite videos.
they're so fun to watch, and so many
Mhm.
people have really like all you guys talking about fantasy all the time and cozy fantasy
Mhm.
finally cracked through when you were talking about like, oh, some people talk about the same deck all the time. I'm like, sometimes that's great because sometimes you need to be bashed over the head with the same thing over and over again because you're missing
Mhm.
out. And then when you finally cave and do it, you're
Yeah.
happy you did. So I was reading like almost exclusively romance for a really long time, and
Mhm.
I love romance,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I've expanded. So yeah, I really wanna keep just sharing all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Reading, writing, crochet,
Mhm.
um, like
Fabulous. Yeah.
anything. Been playing with oil pastels. I wanna,
Mhm.
just find ways to keep sharing that because I think sharing what we're doing in that sense also has its own ripple effect in our own lives of how we're doing these things
Absolutely.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
A very big thank you to the beautiful Tara for coming to chat with me today. Don't forget to pop over to Tara's channel, Cozy Core, and subscribe so you can follow along with her journey. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us for another episode of Cards and Company.